respected senior members, IPS President, past President, and dear friends. First of all, I thank organizers for giving me a chance like this, because rehabilitation used to be the last session at the second day at 12:30 to 1. There used to be only two presenters, one chairperson, one presentation, who is having a presentation, and one person from the organizing committee and one photographer. That was the usual system which has happened some few years back. And last 1 decade there's a change. And especially the IPS presidents from Mohandas time onwards, there's a change. And this last time also, and during Prasad Rao's time, they have allotted a plenary session for rehabilitation. So rehabilitation is in the growing phase, and I thank all, and I thank all the people who is attending this session. And we had the same presentation, and almost in a simple manner in Bangalore with some 10 or 15 audience. Thomas John and myself was there at that time. So this is a great honor for rehabilitation, and I thank you all the participants. And here, the Thomas John, who is present in this topic, he is constantly, persistently working on this certification and rehabilitation. And I have very much obligation towards Thomas John, because only because of Dr. Thomas John, we had a special session in High Court of Kerala on 2009 Mental Health Day. Justice Thottathil Radhakrishnan has conducted a special sitting for we both people, and he has allotted us 3.5 hours to discussing various problems of rehabilitation. And there itself he put an order to what the government always should consult the experts in rehabilitation for forming guidelines. Following that only, that committee was formed under my chairmanship in Kerala, and we were able to bring out a new rule in 2013 by Kerala government. That's the first time in India such a rule has passed by the Assembly. And there all Dr. Thomas John's persistent effort to lobbying as well as giving important suggestions. And the book which is distributing today, and I had an occasion, it's a blessing to forward that first edition of that book. So we can expect in a very simple manner how we can make certification. That's the main thing, because he formulated this idea only because of his experience in government service for such a long time, and found that the certification is always a problem. Always, whatever the disability benefits which is given for other disabilities which is not given for psychiatry. And another thing is, there is an apartheid policy in disability. Because in a closed circle we can talk, in disability, the blinds are Brahmins, psychiatric people are Chandalas. So there is a discrimination. Whatever benefits comes to disability, everything is grabbed by these blind people. So from there we started, and for that Dr. Thomas John was a warrior in that field, and we can expect new highlights in these things. Welcome to you. Dr. Thomas John will start his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Radhakrishnan, for your nice words. A big thank for the organizers for giving me a chance to talk on this disability aspects. As Dr. Radhakrishnan said, usually it is an ignored branch. Respected National President, senior members, teachers, and my dear friends, let us start the program. Two subjects are combined together. One is Act itself, second is the certification aspects. Both are lengthy, but I will reduce it to the correct time. And so naturally I will have a brief outlook on the PWD Act, because otherwise my main focus is on the certification aspects. As psychiatrists, we should know it. So this is about myself. So these are the menu which I am going to say. Introduction, Psychiatrists and the Act, the assessment, certification. Shall we need a guideline? That is the next question. Then what is the WHO recommendation? Then general, specific and a carry home message. So this is a definition of the disability. But you see, it is a functional laws which we have to point, or we have to specific about the functional laws, whatever may be the disability. And the benchmark disability, as you know, it should be 40% and above to get some social benefits. You know, our subject, the psychiatry, we are applying for a social course. So anybody who is certifying it should have that idea in mind. And nowadays, if the disability is above 80%, income tax will give double benefit. So naturally, the pressure and everything will be high, and we, the psychiatrists, should be aware of all these things. So if you go back to the introduction, even Vedas, Yajurveda or Rigveda mentioned about the equal opportunities, protection of rights and equal participation. It is not new to Indian history. Chanakya in 4th century BC mentioned about avoiding stigmatizing words. And even you go through any holy book, they mention about stigma and all these things, marginal, regarding the disability and all these things. Now we will come to India after independence. Rehabilitation Council of India Act was introduced in 92 and it was modified in 2000. Then came the PWD Act in 95, National Trust Act in 99. India is also a signatory to the UNCRPD, United Nations Conventions for Rights of Persons with Disability. 2007 we signed it. So this is some of the histories in the independent India. And now the latest one, after the 2 decades of PWD Act, the 2016 Act is implemented. Actually it took 3 decades for Mental Health Act to be modified, but it took only 2 decades for this PWD Act to be modified. So, this started in 2010, the bill work, it was going on, government modified, remodified, and it was passed in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And in December 27, 2016, President of India signed it. The very next day, the Gazette notification came as an extraordinary one, and it became the law of the land. It has 17 chapters with 102 sessions. I am not going to touch any of these things because it may be boring to an ordinary person or a psychiatrist who is not concerned about all these things. Psychiatrists, 4 or 5 chapters are important to psychiatrists. One is the chapter 1, chapter 5, 10 and 11 because it is very much closely related to our profession. Today also morning while I was traveling, one doctor from, he had some legal obligation about, he was telephoning me what to do. So you wait, I will come and return and we will discuss like that. So chapter 1, 5, 10 and 11 are very important. I have already mentioned these things to the national executives last and they discussed it. They are planning to meet the government, have got all these things. So this time there are 21 disabilities against 7 disabilities before. Then we have to be more careful. After this 21, 5 are from the mental health. Mental illness, intellectual disability which was formerly known as mental retardation, then autism spectrum disorder which was previously known as autism, specific learning disability is a new introduction, then multiple disabilities was already there. Then what are the physical disabilities? Locomotor, leprosy cured, cerebral palsy, dwarfism they have introduced this time, muscular dystrophy, then acid attack victims. I think it is to protect these politicians. Anyway, whatever it may be. Visual comes under 2, blindness and low vision. Hearing impairment, deaf and hard of hearing, 2 classified based on the decibels. Speech and language disorder. This is nothing to do with the speech and language disorder which we mention in DSM-5 or ICD. It is something after laryngectomy. It is clearly mentioned. After laryngectomy, he has got some problem. So we have to be very careful, especially the doctors who are certified. Chronic neurological conditions like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease has introduced this time. Blood disorders like hemophilia, thalassemia and sickle cell disease. Then multiple disabilities including deaf blindness. I said the chapter 1 is important. Why? It contains the definitions. Always the definition is according to the context. It is not exactly what you see in DSM or in ICD. It is to the social context. We have to respect it because it is a law of the country now. Intellectual disability, I think there was no objection because in all the teams, 2 national institutes, NIMS Hyderabad and Secunderabad and NIMANS, they too are invitees in all the meetings. So naturally, they are representing us. We can send our own opinion when it was open. Anybody can send any opinion, whether they accept it or not, that is different. So there was a simple word that I have read, including they have written. That means intellectual disability includes specific learning disability and autism spectrum disorder. That is why. So that is a wrong thing. In the long run, it will create confusion. People will think this is all are one and the same, and it will misinterpret for benefits. From this year onwards, there is 1% reservation for jobs, higher studies, everything, for all the mental illness, including altogether these 5. 1% for 5 items. So naturally there will be confusion, quarrel between SLD and mental illness. We have to expect all these things in future. So we have to remove this word including. Simple by removing, we can say I have suggested that. What is alternative? Everything I have sent to the national IPS. So I think they will meet the president or the concerned people in the disability department and do accordingly. So next is the definition regarding specific learning disabilities. All the 6 items which are included under SLD, I have given in red words. Then this is autism spectrum disorder definition. I am not going to read all these things in detail because total time allotted is only 30 minutes for 2 lengthy subjects. So when we come to the definition of mental illness, they have this time included mental behavior. When it was in the draft stage for almost 5 years, there was nothing. All on a sudden, when it became a act, this is a change. So naturally, some clerical error, but this will be the law of the land because it is in the paper. That is why I insist the national office bearers see that it is to be removed at any cost. Why should we have mental behavior? Say, let it be mental illness. And I suggested a word to add chronic mental illness because neurology people have added chronic neurological disorders. Because either the younger generation, they may confuse any mental illness, they may certify as a disabled. So in order to confusion, if they agree it is good mental illness, I have made it as a chronic mental illness. Then what about the chapter 5? Why it is important? It comes about the treatment and the health aspects of the disabled. Then the rehabilitation, Dr. Radhakrishnan's chapter. These 2 are concerned in the chapter 5. See, this is only in the act stage. Now we have to frame rules at the central level, state level, local level, very thing. So Indian Psychiatrist Society should have membership or they should have representation in all these states forming the rules and everything. So chapter 5 is very important. Legal issues come regarding the treatment of these people. Then chapter 10 is important. Why? Certifications, guidelines, how to certify, all these things are given in chapter 10. Then chapter 11 deals with advisory boards and committees. I strongly feel that there will be central committee, state committee, local district level committee, and Indian Psychiatric Society members should get adequate representation in all these things, that we should continually persist for that. Now I will come to the second portion, disability assessment. Why we should have a guideline? The reason is very simple. Now it is well said, certificate issued anywhere in India is valid. From one place is valid all over in India. So that is, there should be some guideline and some unification or some unity among us, some uniform guideline. Otherwise it will create. Nowadays if a certificate which is issued from Delhi, if it comes to South, it may be in a different format. How will you interpret it? The benefits are given by Social Justice Department or some other department. The poor gentleman may be getting 500 rupees or 100,000 rupees to get some medicine. Why should we should be on the way for it? We should not be on the way for such things. So it should be some unity. Then what are the problems faced by the physician? In order to avoid these problems, we should have some uniform guidelines. So what are the problems? The first and foremost thing which I found is a dearth of training in teaching institutions. That's why I compel or I insist the national body to take it up and give adequate training for our members. Lack of awareness. Disability certificates, if it is brought to us for a legal purpose, very well we can say that this is issued for a disability purpose, for some social benefits, not for any legal fighting. You might have committed some crime. You should not get a benefit. Our younger generation does not know it. They simply trust on it. The patient may bring it because his lawyer will, okay, we will include this also for your benefit. So, political administrative pressure, sometimes we have to give, because I have been in service for many years, you will get call from here and there to issue, so that pressure is there. So how to avoid all these things? Inability to convince others. Mental illness, if your arm is amputated, even the patient, the layman will understand that gentleman is not having an arm. Or if you are blind, somebody will know that he is a blind. But how can you convince that a mentally ill person is disabled? So it itself is a problem for us. Then lack of proper supportive staff in many of the institutions. Those who are working in the periphery, what support they are getting. Poor coordination. When you go for the disability camps, there won't be any coordination there. Crowd. Sometimes you cannot expect too much crowd. An inauguration, political speech, everything will take half of the time. And the real thing will be shrunk to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Then exclusive dependence on psychometry by new generation. These are the problems. Then it will lack of consistency and accuracy, varying diagnosis. Suppose a patient is ill for 10 or 15 years, one institution say he has got bipolar, and when you go for another center, they will reevaluate and he is having psychosis or something. It is quite common in our. So what can we do? So these are then the problem between permanent and temporary. We are not sure that a mentally ill person will cure. You may get cured after some time. So it is a genuine problem, but how to solve it? That is a very important thing. If somebody lost his finger, it is a permanent loss, that they can understand it. But we cannot say that a patient is having long-standing mental illness, he will not come back. It is a very big problem. George Orwell said that sanity is not statistical. Like that, insanity is also not statistical. If sanity is not statistical, then insanity is also not statistical. It may vary. But when I was doing for the benefit of the patient, I usually give a certificate, because without writing a permanent certificate, he will not get a benefit. They say for temporary disability, no benefit. So I usually write permanent with, say, renew after 3 years or 5 years, because that poor chap should get it. At the same time, my skin should be protected. So this is my approach. See, I am just going through some of the certificates issued. I have got a lot of collections like this from young generation. This type of mistake is quite understandable because we have no training. This young gentle psychiatrist qualified one of the major institutions from South India, now working in Kerala. He has said the disability is for epilepsy, 40% disability. Epilepsy is never mentioned either in the PWD Act 95 or in the 2016 as a disability. So this is why I have got a lot of collections, because somehow they will come to me ultimately, and that is why I feel that our young people need training. Whether you are certifying person or you are the person who is sending it, epilepsy is not a disability. He has given permanent disability, this young boy, and I know him. Now he is an engineering student doing well with all the things. So these are the, I'm not blaming, because this type, I have made more mistakes than this during my service, believe me. And this is why we strongly feel that we need a guideline or this is because of the dearth of training in teaching institutions. They give a lot of space, lot of time for academic training, but when they come to the ground reality, this is the thing. Another medical board certificate. This certificate is issued for National Institute of Open Schooling, that is open syllabus. He has written as borderline intelligence. Borderline intelligence is not a disability, nowhere. That means he is not aware of it, and he has signed it. Then what about this for a specific learning disorder? As far as the word itself is wrong, specific learning disorder. Why, I will tell you, in the disability aspect that word does not exist. Anyway, he has written somewhere IQ 95, then what it is? NBSLD normal profile. Everything is normal, but that poor gentleman forgot to strike all these things. That means he is able to get all the benefit, even though he doesn't have illness. So this is either lack of training. I have got a bundle of this because I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Then only I thought that I will read all these things and genuine. Then this is at another certificate issued from Cochin only, from my own city. This is a fault if it depends totally on psychometry. These clinical psychologists trained from Niemann's. 3 certificates I will show. They are trained from major institutes in India. So this clinical psychologist has written IQ 65 and mild mental retardation she has written. See, mild mental retardation, IQ 65. Same child within 1 month. He is my clinical psychologist. He was working with me. He is from Ranchi Institute. I am not blaming that. Error is human. That is quite, with due respect for this gentleman, because he associated for all my work, he contributed a lot. He has written Niemann's battery and everything. According to him, it is IQ is 92. The same child after 1 month, according to him, average intelligence with no learning disability. So he went to another center, all are in Cochin, full of centers are there. Borderline intelligence. So same child, borderline intelligence, mental retardation, average intelligence. So if you simply trust on this, you will be in trouble. I have been in trouble with all these things. That is why nowadays I do a clinical IQ assessment. If there is something wrong, I will tell them, can you do it again? Because I find that there is something wrong with it. Maybe the way that, and he will do it immediately, because that is the rapport between me and him. I told you the crowd, this is a crowd. The last 2016 last month, one of the disability camp, people are waiting for certificate. Doctor will get hardly 2 hours. The politicians will speak for altogether 3 hours, and he has to finish everything. So this is the ground reality of certifications. See, these are real pictures from the disability camps. Here the doctor has to go out and control the crowd. So that is why Professor Mohan Isaac has said, he has written this in my book, unlike the assessment, quantification and certification of mental disabilities can pose specific problems and confusing issues for the clinicians. See, in the earlier I show you 3 certificates issued by psychiatrists, one from a cooperative medical college, another one is a private medical college, another one is a government medical college. There is no difference in their training. Whether he is in government or private, they are not getting any training, which I forgot to mention. So now I will go to the second part of my presentation. What is the guidelines for a disability? You look at the WHO guideline. Disability is not just a health problem. It is an umbrella term according to WHO. It is a complex phenomenon reflecting the interaction between features of a person's body and features of the society in which he or she lives. So environmental and social barriers has got an influence that WHO enhances on it, insists on it, emphasizes on it. So what is ICF? International Classification of Functioning. WHO formulated ICF, the International Classification of Functioning in Disability and Health, known more commonly as ICF. It is known as ICF. It's a classification of health and health-related domains. As a functioning and disability of an individual occurs in a context, ICF also includes a list of environmental factors. If you go through the ICF, these are the environmental factors which increases the disability of a person, not really the disease per se. ICF is a WHO framework for measuring health and disability. ICF was officially endorsed by all 191 countries, WHO member states, in the 54th World Health Assembly on 22nd May 2001. It is there since 2001. It was implemented almost 191 countries, but still we are unaware of it as the international standard to describe, measure health and disability. ICF is operationalized through the WHO Disability Assessment Schedule, HUDAS. It was developed through a collaborative international approach with the aim of developing a single generic instrument. You underline it. They say come to as simple and single as far as possible instead of thousands of scales for thousands of things. When you come to the functional disability, because they know the problem, the ground reality of all these things. For assessing health status and disability across different cultures and settings. So it is very important, single generic instrument. WHO guidelines, each user should choose the solution that best fits for the purpose. You are the one to choose it, not any guideline insisted from anywhere. Scope, setting, there is no single strategy for choosing components and domains. These are WHO words, not my words. Using ICF is ICD makes it possible to provide a full picture of health and functioning. You make a clinical diagnosis based on ICD or DSM based on it, or whichever you follow. If ICD, that only WHO can recommend it. Then you apply International Classification of Functioning, you will get the disability, provided you are trained a little bit in it. The ICF provides a common language for all disabilities. The World Health Organization Disability Assessment Schedule, which is popularly known as HUDAS, is a generic assessment instrument developed by WHO to provide a standardized method for measuring health and disability across cultures. It was developed from a comprehensive set of international classification of functioning. So these are the 6 domains, keep it in mind, this is sufficient. Domain 1 is cognition, understanding and communicating. Domain 2, mobility, moving and getting around of the patients. Domain 3 is self-care, attending to one's hygiene, dressing, eating and staying alone. Domain 4, getting along. 5, life activities. 6, participations. So this is there. If you want, you get Google, you WHO ICF, you will get. So if anybody is interested, I can send it to you. There are more than 100 pages, it is there. So now I will go into specific guidelines. The new introduction is specific learning disability. So I will just spend a few minutes on it. For all practical purposes, SLD is an exclusion diagnosis, and it is a grade or the standard or class-based assessment is the most practical thing. See, there was a lot of confusion when it came in. Why can't we call it learning disorder or disability? See, it is an heterogeneous group of symptoms, 6 items, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, all these things. What is equivalent to it? Dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia is nothing but specific learning disorder, which is mentioned in all the 3 items in SLD are included as such. Then, what is developmental asteria? It is nothing but the communication disorders. What is dyspraxia? It is nothing but a motor disorder which you see in DSM-5 or specific development disease motor function in ICD-10. What is perceptual disorder? If you analyze a childhood perceptual disorder, that means child has got perception in the visual and the auditory areas. His visual memory or auditory memory is affected. It's known as a perceptual disorder. It can very well occur in attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder has 3 components: inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. You go through the inattention part. It says that 6 out of 9 is sufficient to call is inattention. The first 4 or 5, I don't remember exactly, one A, B, C, D like that, first 4 or 5, if you read between the lines, you will understand a child who is having that symptom will definitely have a LD problem also. So naturally, this should be very clear. Why? There was a lot of criticism that we should change on to from disability to disorder, because it is a Government of India's wording. Second thing is, it includes not only SLD, it includes SLD, but it includes a group of heterogeneous symptoms. So grade-based assessment is the standard. So it is not the IQ test. And if you can very well clinically test an IQ, that is sufficient. You need not depend on them. If you cannot, you send to a clinical. So grade-based, that is what is developed by NIMHANS. So if you want to convert it into percentage, we have developed a scale. You can very well convert into based on this. Now the chair said there is only 4 more minutes. So I am just jumping out through these things. So if you want any doubt, you can ask me. Guidelines for a disability. See, if you see that Indian Disability Evaluation Assessment Ideas, CREF scale for this autism developed by me, ADPMR developed by Ranchi, all these are direct quantification based on the 6 domains or of WHO pattern. You will get a direct quantification. If you analyze CREF, this is a scale for this idea scale, self-care, interpersonal activities, communication, work and duration. It is exactly fitting with the 6 domains. We have reduced it because if we go through the 6 domains of the WHO, 5 and 6, there is not much difference. That is why, so those who are criticizing ideas, of course it needs some modifications. Think that it is based on WHO guidelines, not an academic guideline. So ADPMR developed by Ranchi, same minimum things, developed on 5 domains. Then CREF scale developed by my team based on 5 domains. So what are there? So communication, reciprocity, education, play, self-injury. CREFs we usually known as. So these are easy. Total score divided by 20 into 100. So even in a crowded, the psychiatrist can very well certify it instead of going to 70 or 100 items like that. So if you go to ISA scale, there are 70 items you have to go through it. There is no direct quantification in it. They say if there is less than 70, no autism. How will you quantify it in percentage? Now the government wants in percentage. So we need a scale like that. Then carry home messages, I think correct time. Disability certification is a professional social responsibility. Just like this corporate social responsibility, professionals are also a responsibility. Need not fully depend on psychometry. No, we are not against psychometry or neuroimaging. No academic or no science will not grow without such development, but it is not fully depend upon. You depend upon your clinical science. If you from your medical ward, if you get a blood sugar report as 40, and when you go for the rounds, patient is very actively sitting, do you believe that report? Then you tell them that it is wrong, repeat it. Like that, you should have the stamina to tell that this is a wrong psychometry, do it again. Final certification must be clinician oriented and based on WHO schemes. I am very much obliged to these senior members. Dr. Mohan Isaac was very well supporting me from the very beginning when I had a lot of objections. Then Dr. Murali, Dr. Mohan Das, Dr. Kumar, our own professor, and Dr. Tara, Ajit, Dr. V.K. Radhakrishnan. He was the first man who supported. You go ahead. People will criticize in the beginning like that. And our own Dr. Asim Kumar Malik and Dr. Ramakrishnan. Now he is the convener of this team and references. Thank you very much for your patient listening. This is our logo we have accepted for disability. It is designed by Dr. Suresh from Nimans. Thank you very much.
A big salute for Dr. Thomas John for keeping the time. And IPS can always be proud of that. The IDS is the first tool which is recognized by the government of India. After the long course of IPS working in India, the first time the government has accepted the full recommendation of IPS, or the professional organization, and make a gazette publication. Regarding this PWD Act, our association was totally neglected in the beginning. First time they invited a psychiatrist for a discussion was 6 years back in Goa meeting. That was as WAPR president, I was invited. And that too, due to the persistent effort of the Vasudeva Murthy of our treasurer, they gave an invitation for me. I attended the Goa meeting. The government secretary for social welfare was chairing the meeting. And when I started talking, he told 3 minutes. Then I told, I don't want to say anything. Then others recommended to allot more time for the psychiatrist. Then they allotted 20 minutes for me. That was first discussion. So that was a strategy which government followed in this few years. There you can see the lacunae because of lack of our participation. When Dr. Thomas Jones started this work, and he had so many apprehensions and so many criticisms from psychiatrists, then I was strongly behind him to go ahead. And I am very happy to Thomas Jones work reached to this level. Now it's open for discussion, comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Thomas, for a clarity in the problems which we face even today. I might also add that during my term and now continuing to the current term with MSVK Raju, Maneka Gandhi actually, there was a news report which said that mental illness will not be covered. Then I proactively wrote a letter along with Tara, and then she immediately wrote back to us within 2 days saying, no, that's something a misnomer, wrong quote, wrongly quoted. But I would say, I think 2 important take-home points is, we are all united. The only clarity probably is we need a better certification. See, disability for mental illness is quite good, but now that all the other things are added, IPS, the national body, I'm sure will come through your committee, and probably in the next EC meeting at Visakhapatnam, we should come through the process. That's my suggestion. The second comment is, can we recommend to the government that all psychiatrists' certificates are as equally valid as much as the government doctors. This is very important. As you know, 80% of us are in private sector, and our certificates properly given, and these guidelines should be on the IPS website. So these are the 2 recommendations. I congratulate you for the persistence. I know you are a perseverator. You have a long perseveration on this theme, and sometimes you are angry also that nobody is listening. Remember, we listened. Remember, we bought you the book last year, and we are with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas John and Dr. Prasad Rao. This very topic we discussed last year itself. When we conduct a midterm CME, we will have 1 topic on disability as certification. And there is a problem in academicians as well as private practitioners. private practitioners, honestly, I would tell that they are not giving much importance to the certification. Why I am insisting on this is, now present government has introduced a Swayambhalan scheme with a tie-up with New Indian Insurance. All you have to do is get the certification from the Social Disabilities Department, and you have that valid certificate. If you pay 310 rupees, the candidate and his spouse or parent are also eligible for 3 lakhs benefit every year for medical illness or mental illness admission also. And to quote the example, last 2 months we have registered more than 200 people for the Swayambhalan scheme and got the card from the Vita this agency. And last week, and another thing, this is not after 1 year. It is the day the certificate is given, the certification insurance is valid. Here our own daycare rehabilitation beneficiary, he had a fall. He had to undergo surgery. He went to the hospital. He had to undergo even tendon suturing. Everything done, no cost. He came out well. He just showed the card, that's all. This is the first success I can show on record how this certification is important. So nowadays in Tamil Nadu government, they have authorized 5 NGOs to do the certification. One among is Trust and Me. I am eligible to give certification for 7 districts. Dr. Geeta, of course, she is the one who is doing all the certifications. And Madurai area, Dr. CRS. In Madras area, Dr. Tara. They are eligible to give the disability certification. So if you can use all these things and you get more and more disabled people into the bracket in the statistics, then only our voice will be heard. Many times they say that where is the proof that so many people are mentally ill? Why should we allot fund for mental disability? Unless we show the statistics, government will not come forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question.
So this really giving certificates through camps is a tremendous stress to our psychiatrists. Issuing certificates through camps is a tremendous stress to psychiatrist who sits there. So can IPS just write to the government of India, let us not have mental certificates through camps, it should be through only appointed systems. Shall we make a beginning at least? They may or may not accept immediately. This is my just suggestion.
Good morning, I am Dr. Sudarshan from Cochin. Even though I am from Cochin, I am staying in a remote place in Kerala. The problem I am facing is that, see, usually government office, by around 64, 6 like they will be getting a seat for DPM under reservation. And once they pass out, they will be the head of the institution to give this mental certificate. And they will be issuing the mental certificate. They are not at all bothered about this thing. They don't know the bylaws regarding this thing. But they give this disability certificate. The problem is that their disability certificate, how government can owe it. So I am requesting, even if it is given by a government doctor, it has to be at least 10 years of experience in psychiatry. That is the thing you have to put on one thing. Second thing, the fifth thing you are told is under a clinician, physicians like that. Why can't it be a qualified psychiatrist? That fifth point. The certification has to be under a physician oriented or something, you are a clinician oriented. Instead of that clinician, why can't it be clearly written as a psychiatrist?
No, this is my slide. I mean psychiatrist only. I give another name, that's all. Doesn't mean that it's only for psychiatrists.
But suppose today you are written as clinician, the other generation, the other population coming will be reading as clinician, can be anybody. So it has to be clearly written as psychiatrist.
Yeah, definitely, because it is only...
Sir, I want to... Thing is, you are saying 10 years experience is needed for certification. In Tamil Nadu, we had a peculiar situation where all pediatricians, psychiatric social workers and psychologists, they are entitled to issue disability certificate for mentally retarded children.
Naturally, you have to fight it out. How this other people can issue this sort of things? Are they eligible? They know the bylaws. The thing is, you have to fight with the government.
So my question is, recently, as part of the National Trust Act itself, training was conducted in New Delhi where psychiatrists and pediatricians and clinical psychologists were given a training on administering Indian scale for assessment of autism and INCLEN, these two tools, for making the disability assessment of autism universally the same all over India. But the biggest problem with these scales, especially the ISAA, is that a 70-item tool, which takes a lot of time. So a government psychiatrist who is supposed to do it in a camp setting or even in a busy disability certificate issuing setting is finding it very difficult to administer the tool and give the certificate in the specified time. So this is going to be a mandatory thing all over India as per the news received. So what would be the stand of IPS in this? Would you advocate that ISA should be the tool which should be followed all over India? And my second question is regarding ADPMR. Especially in Kerala, the education department is insisting on certificates where IQ is clearly written. But ADPMR is one scale in which we can calculate the disability for MR without doing the IQ. Is ADPMR accepted as per the government recommendations? Is it published in Gazette, or is it enough that we issue a certificate based on ADPMR for MR? These are the two questions.
So shall I answer? So, it is an administrative and legal issue, so that is why I asked them also, not only a presentation only. Your first question is, you have been invited for this training in Delhi. Did you attend, Dr. Arun?
I did not attend. Somebody else attended. People from all over India attended. And they say that they are going to make this assessment using ISAA mandatory all over India as the only assessment system for autism and related disabilities.
I will tell you why. See, National Trust Act came in 1999 and autism, which was not included in PWD Act 95, was made as a separate disability under National Trust Act. Then the criteria and everything was put forward by National Institute of Mental Health, Hyderabad, Secunderabad, and NIMANS. Usually they two combined for everything. And when they are represented, immediately government asked them, you bring a tool to certify, to guideline it, we will give a Gazette notification. So Gazette notification not easy for such institute. Government is insisting, Social Justice Department is insisting them, okay, we are going to accept this as a disability. You bring a criteria for it. You understand it? So immediately they will give a guideline that will be accepted as a guideline or notified in the Gazette. That doesn't mean that as a psychiatrist, if you certify and in your own way based on ICD and International Classification of Functioning, nobody is going to question it because that is the international criteria and 191 countries, including India, is a signatory, but unfortunately we don't know it. See, I was in government service for many years. I have never used research scale. I used ICD and my own way, and I have my own stand that I am using it because nobody is going to insist you legally. Nobody can insist you these things. If you are caught, you tell that I followed my ICD and I have classified the functional disability according to the function. See how the senior psychiatrists are classifying before all these things. They give better than this. When I presented my Krebs scale, one of the senior psychiatrists, maybe he was in government service for many years, he asked me, why can't you use ideas for autism also? He was absolutely right. That is why in my scale, after 15 years, I said you use ideas. All the 5 domains are there. If the patient has no communication, no self-care, if he is wandering due to his autism along the street, what disability you are lacking in? Are you going for the 70-item scale? That is from a teaching academic institution, they can go like that only. simply, but it is may not be practicable in a crowded OP that we are not criticizing them, but they cannot simply form a simple things. You can understand me, I think. You go ahead, there is no legal question about this. If you go, you should substantiate that I used ICD or I used DSM and International Classification of Functioning. But they, like Dr. Sudarshan and other things, they know better than many of us. I have seen many of his certificates. Because of their years of experience with these mentally ill patients, once they certify, he requires a disability certificate. It is quite essential for them. So don't think that, but without these tools, science will not grow. So let them develop it. At the same time, you go in a practical way. That is why, did you see my slides? WHO says you practice, it is self-decision, include your setting, your environment and your thing. But these are, you should have some guideline, because you know the Disability Commissioner of Kerala, he made a comment that disability certificates from psychiatrists different percentage. I told him that it is a functional disability we are assessing, the WHO says based on this. He did not answer anything. But still we should have some guideline, that's all. And one more thing is, with due much respect to our President, this time along with the National Midterm CME, there is an half-day exclusive workshop on disability certification. So those who want to attend it, this is only an introductory presentation.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Firstly, it is a learning experience hearing so many opinions about the disability. But fundamentally, there are two issues I think we need to be aware and we need to focus on that. Firstly, disability as defined now is not individual based, it is interactive. Individual has some impairment and the society is giving opportunities or not, depending on that. Now that is the vague area where we have to define who is defining what opportunities are available in a given case, in a given situation, given place. Unless that is there, probably you cannot define disability clearly. And who is that person who will give the environmental opportunities? Say like you are going to a station. A person is having lame person, there is no escalator, he is disabled. So that's not going to a polling booth. There is no braille system, he can't see. Disabled as far as that particular function is concerned. So like that, these complexities I think we need to be aware of, and the present availability of technology. Say somebody is hearing impaired or visually impaired, technologies are available to increase the impairments, rectify the impairments. So, but who is providing these aids to a particular, whether the government responsibility, if the government doesn't have the machinery to offer these opportunities, who is, what are the alternatives? And so these are the larger issues I think we need to focus when we consider disability. The other thing is that the PWD Act, we talk of mental illness as a, some sort of monolith. If you see the appendix of the PWD Act, again, they have defined mental illness in the same way they have defined in the mental health care bill. All mental illness are not mental illness as per this act also. Only acutely, severely psychotic individuals, to my understanding, even delusional disorder is not a mental illness as per the definition of the PWD, as the definition of the Mental Health Care Act also. So, I feel that every mental illness has some disability, may not be having a benchmark disability. Say panic disorder, OCD or whatever, they have disabilities. And disability is not static, it is a dynamic situation. At a point of time, it might increase, it might decrease, it might ameliorate totally. So we should not, I think we need to consider the complexities involved in the disability certification, discussing this thing. And as we were discussing, a thought struck to me, probably it will be opportunity to some of us to sit together and have a workshop, and we are having now but that may not be sufficient in our headquarters, so that we can discuss the issues threadbare and approach the powers that be. So that aware, unless we create noise, unless our faces come into the minds of the people up there in Delhi or elsewhere, I don't think we will be discussing among us ourselves, and it will have no effect. That's what we have seen, I have seen in recent times. So that's all I want to say. So upshot is, what I think is, some of us, those who are interested, involved in the disability, we must sit together and have a workshop, not only 1 hour, 2 hour, then it should be focused workshop, intensive, at least 1 day duration, totally, exclusively devoted to the disability.
See, on behalf of the Disability Task Force, we are willing to conduct workshop in any district, anywhere in India that we have taken. If anybody who is interested, just inform Dr. Ramakrishnan. We are willing to conduct, so we will have more interactions about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas John. It's a very useful session and a very interactive session, and thank for the President to take up this matter in a serious manner. Because some 10 years back, if you leave Chennai, there is no rehabilitation in between till Madurai. Once you leave Madurai, there is no rehabilitation in between till you reach Trichy. That is strategy. So Ramakrishnan was taking the lead in forming the Trichy rehabilitation in such a big way. And thank you all once again for the active participation and patient listening. Thank you very much.